If you're here for Career Resilience Fireside Chats, you're in the right place. We're having technical difficulties, so bear with us for just a moment.
While Jessica's working out getting Tina on here, so happy to be with you guys. I'm Emily Kapit. Tina, when she joins, will introduce me, but very quickly, I'm a triple certified master resume writer and a career strategist and a career resilience expert as well. And we work with our clients on figuring out whatever their career crisis is, helping them work through it and establishing those strategies for career resilience. A part of that, of course, is working out their professional documents, including resumes and LinkedIn profiles, job search strategies, interview prep, all of the above. And so, there's Tina. Yay!
Fantastic! Yay!
It wouldn't be a session if we didn't have like one little snag. So that's the snag. We got it out of the way within the first.
I was going to say, way to get it out of the way super early.
Yeah.
So if you guys are here for Career Resilience Fireside Chats, you're in the right place. Please use the message function and make comments and interact throughout the session on the session tab. And then you will see at the bottom on your navigation bar that little emoji that's called reaction. So as our hosts are talking about different things, you can do reactions, you can love, you can give applause, lots of different ways that you guys can be interacting.
Show us lots of love.
So please interact. We know it's not the most interactive platform, so please interact how you can, and we will make sure that we save some time at the end for questions, which you can share in the feed or message directly to me, the host, Jessica Siegel. So with that, I will turn it on over to Emily and Tina to do introductions and get the.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. We're so glad that you're here. And it looks like we have almost 40 participants. I'm sure we'll have some others joining us as the session progresses, Emily. But before we start, we've got to do the obligatory intros. So I will let Emily introduce me, and then I'll do the same for her.
No, absolutely. Thank you so much. It is wonderful to be here. Yes, I am so excited to introduce Tina Bjork. She is one of the best. I can absolutely say that without a doubt. Tina leads the global learning for platform services at Coca-Cola. She has had 14 years in the industry leading, designing, deploying, and measuring learning solutions. She's actually led the transformation of onboarding and continuous development programs across the Coca-Cola enterprise over on her and her particular department. She is out in Orange County leading the association for, and I wrote it down, Tina, and of course I closed my thing, but
ATD,
Orange County chapter. She is also a Luma Design Thinking Practitioner certified, which is awesome to have. She's truly, truly highly skilled in integrating human-centered design throughout the learning process. And she is a Master of Education degree with a focus on instructional design from the University of South Florida. I've had the pleasure of working with Tina, and she is just one of the best in the industry. So happy to be joining her today for this awesome chat, awesome fireside chat.
Thank you so much, Emily. And yes, it is truly a fireside chat. I had to light my candle there. I do picture us, though, sitting around a nice warm fireplace. But nonetheless, maybe one day we'll be able to get together. Here we are. So Emily, oh my gosh, I'm so honored to introduce Emily. She is a 3-time certified master resume writer. So her advice today, take it down, because she is one of the best. Leading career strategist and career resilience expert, founder of the company Refresh Your Step. She's actually created the methodology that we're going to be immersing ourselves into today talking about, which is the capitalize process. No pun intended. If you know Emily, you know she loves the play on words. She's been published in Forbes, Medium, HuffPost, and Mind Body Green, among others. And she is currently working on her first book, which I cannot wait to get a hold of, Sink or Swim, The Life-Changing Strategies for Career Resilience, which is due out this year. Just had a baby and you're writing a book.
I mean, if I had any time to focus between the business, the kids, COVID, life, but we're working on it, and we have a lot done on the book, and we're really excited. So thank you so much for the introduction.
Great. Okay. So I'm going to tee up a little bit of an interactive piece here in the chat. If you could let us know how confident you are in speaking to your pattern of excellence. And Emily, I'll let you just do a quick high level. What is your definition of a pattern of excellence?
So thank you so much for that. So the pattern of excellence is very simple. It's being able to look back in your career to date, your career trajectory, whatever it has been, and really being able to identify the great work that you've done at every level and every job that you've had, even if you are not so far out of school, maybe great projects you worked on, whatever it might be, but being able to look back at your career trajectory and identifying, what did I do? How did I do it? What was the outcome? Thinking through qualitative and quantitative measurables. Not everything needs to be number-based, but really being able to note that so you have in front of you a record of achievement. It's useful for the professional documents. It's useful for your career growth and everything connected to just being able to handle career challenges.
That's wonderful. I see some folks in the chat. Yes, you are a superwoman, Emily. Love pattern of excellence. Awesome. So we've already got Diane's response here. Only okay. So if the rest of you would love to chime in the chat, let us know how confident you are after you've heard the definition of pattern of excellence.
Got it. Yeah, we definitely want to hear more about that and are here to answer questions on it towards the end. So that is pattern of excellence. Thank you so much. And then I wanted to introduce what we think of as the capitalized process, right? So that's what I wanted to chat about next. So as Tina indicated and Jessica also noted, I do love a good pun. Kapit is my last name. Actually, it's my husband's last name, so I thank him. But the capitalized process is what we think of as the opportunity for people to look back at what they've done to date and then being able to take that information, clarifying their steps forward, whatever the information that we pull from that, and be able to put together clear steps and strategies for moving forward in their career, especially if they're dealing with a crisis, because everybody comes to me in a crisis. Sometimes it's that crisis of one, like I'm graduating from school or I'm not quite sure what I want to do next in my career. I'm just trying to figure it out. Sometimes it's a bigger crisis that my team is changing, my department's changing, or my company's being bought. Sometimes it's a global crisis, such as all of 2020, right? But whatever it is, everyone comes to me in a crisis. So the capitalized process allows you to start thinking through where am I in my career, looking back, grabbing out that very important accomplishments and measurables piece, establishing that pattern of excellence, and then putting together a plan to move forward with your career. So that is the capitalized process. And if we can, Tina, if we can move to that particular slide so visually they can see that.
Yep. So I had the capitalized slide up. Can you all see? No. Okay, hold on.
No, we can't see your screen. I'll tell you when we can.
Wonderful. That's right, because I rejoined as a speaker. Let me go back.
I know I didn't want to interrupt, but I was like, I think this is when they're still like, your intros are fine. We didn't need those slides. Okay, we're good. We can.
Oh, there we go. Okay, that's the capitalized process. And you can see that is where reactive takeaways become proactive plans and actions. So the first two steps of the capitalized process are what I was saying before about being able to look back, reflecting on where you've come from, revealing. We're going to go into the reveal piece in a minute, but that's where you're going to actually capture that accomplishments and measurables information to then take that information and start reconstructing your path forward, revitalizing what your plans are going to be with your career, enacting that plan and getting those documents together in the meantime, the resume, the LinkedIn, all of that, and then actually starting to move forward, refining as you go. And those steps working together are what do establish that career resilience. So let's actually talk a little bit further about the reveal piece. So I found that this is a really easy way and a great acronym to remember this accomplishments and measurables aspect, where you're really thinking through in what ways have I handled different adversities throughout my career, whether it is a project that I was working on, a challenge that I faced, an issue that cropped up. Even if it was a project you were assigned to, there's still adversity tied to that. There's still complexity. identifying the challenges and goals connected to that particular project and each one along the way, the grit that you showed, how you assess that hard work that you have done, and that excellent outcome, whatever it might have been, looking for measurable outcomes, again, on the qualitative and the quantitative side. So we call that reveal your age, not your actual age, but the really identifying the ways that you have handled the adversity, the grit that you showed, and that outcome, whatever it might have been. So we have a particular document that we go through with our clients just to go back, so that reveal your age is still looking backwards, and then to start putting that together to move forwards, let's show that document, just that quick shot of it. This is the accomplishments and measurables matrix that our clients do. They do go through it. Tina's going to speak to this in a little bit more detail in a minute, but I wanted to show this is how we're gathering out that reveal your age information, showing, what was that accomplishment, that achievement, the initiative, what was the goal, that purpose, what were the steps that you took, what were the measurables, and where is that outcome. So clients going through this process and gathering that information, it really helps them to better see and understand what they've done and done well. And once you have all of that information in front of you, we call it that record of achievement. We recommend doing some sort of like inventory and assessment of, okay, now you know what you've done well. What have you liked to do and want to do more of, and what would you be happy to never do again? That is hugely clarifying for every single person to be able to say, oh, I actually really enjoyed that. I'd love to do more of that. This other stuff, I did not. I may have done a good job with it. That's clear. I don't want to do it anymore. And so being able to go through that process, it helps people to take the blinders off and put together a much more strategic plan moving forward, not just for their own documents, but for their job search, their interview prep, their networking tactics. It all works together. So really clear and key components of that process. But I wanted Tina to actually speak through how this process has been helpful for her, both in the past as well as currently. So Tina, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Emily. So I have been through numerous career crises in my entire career, and certainly in the learning industry, as the learning roles have changed and evolved, as our needs in the business have changed, as our digital strategies have accelerated, right? Those are all little mini crises that sometimes turn into big ones. And you find yourself having to go back to, what is my pattern of excellence? What's my purpose, right? What are the things I love to do? And so I had created this accomplishments and measurables matrix with Emily a number of years ago. And going back to her process, I've really now been able to just revitalize and refine it as time progresses. Mm-hmm. So you're kind of running your career like you would a business, right? You have to have a good grasp on what your goals are, what it is that you've done, how you've done it, and the impact that it's had. So thinking of it that way, I think, gives you a lot more control and empowers you throughout your career journey.
Absolutely. And I've seen, we see this with every client, but what I've really noticed with Tina is that she has been able to so beautifully capture her career to date the first time she went through it. And then, in handling additional crises that pop up, it's not just being able to handle that one at that moment. It's being able to understand the strategies for working through additional crises that are going to crop up along the way. And Tina's been doing such an amazing job with that, to revisit, okay, what have I done in the past? What am I doing more recently? Where am I going with my career? How am I thinking through this strategically? How am I going to be in the driver's seat of the next phases of my career? And who's along for the ride to help objectively work with me to get me there? And everybody needs this at every level. And Tina has done such a fabulous job of it.
And I will tell you, what helped me is doing this when I didn't absolutely need it, when I wasn't in oh my gosh, crisis mode. What am I going to do? Because now I have this. It's ready to go. I've been iterating on it. And when I'm ready for that next crisis, and in fact, that next crisis is in front of me, and I have found much more resilience and empowerment through the process. So I think we talked about the real world challenge, Emily, and
yes.
I just wanted to wrap up from my point of view how powerful this has been in preparing me for whatever changes and transitions come. And certainly I am excited about being in the final stages of a process. This has helped me give what I would say for my standards, an awesome interview. It made me confident going in because I can speak to my pattern of excellence and I can tell my story in a much more confident way.
Right. And then it's such an empowering process, and it really does allow you to be that much more prepared. And what we find is that there's an accountability piece to going through it, where it's not you on your own. You're working with a team, whether it's our team or any team, to make sure that you are truly preparing all steps along the way and understanding that they're all intertwined. These are not separate aspects. The resume is not separate from LinkedIn, is not separate from the job search, is not separate from interviews. They're all intertwined, and it all really ties back to what's your pattern of excellence and how are you speaking to it? And that does lead to resilience. And I know that there are also, questions that pop up along the way. And I know this was something you and I were talking about, Tina, about, well, how do you handle failures and how do you handle, these kinds of questions, and being prepared in advance for those as well. So if we have a minute, I know that was something that we thought we would bring up today. Do we still have a minute to talk about that before we jump to other questions?
Yeah. In fact, we do.
You guys are good on time. You have a couple minutes left, and then probably in like 4 minutes or so, we'll shift to questions. So just a reminder, if you have questions for Emily or Tina, that are more general to address in a group setting, feel free to chat them directly to me or put them in the group chat, and we'll make sure they get to as many of them.
Perfect. Great. Thank you. Okay, so I get the question a lot. 3 specific questions we wanted to talk through, the strategy specifically. The failure one was a big one, and I know, Tina, this one popped up for you, and so we're always so ready to talk about our successes, but there's also strategic ways to successfully talk about failure, especially when you've been asked that question in an interview. So tell us in the chat if you've actually been asked, like, how have you handled that failure? Because I feel like most people have, or if you have done the asking. But there are strategies for handling that. So I'm going to go through that right now. The biggest strategy is when you're asked for, a failure or a difficult time or a difficult colleague or something that really speaks to like more on the negative side, the strategy is actually still the same. You want to speak to whatever that challenge was. You want to give a very high level overview. Don't go into too much detail. Keep it short. And then discuss what that challenge was, how you handled it positively, and then what the outcome was and what you've taken from that. So you always end it on a positive. That is what you want to leave them with. End it on a positive. Again, whether it was a failure at work or a difficult coworker, a difficult client, whatever it is, you always want to end it on the positive. So an example of that might be, what for me, somebody might ask me, what was the most difficult client you've ever worked with? And I would very quickly speak to, someone who just wanted to go through the process, but was unable to really articulate what they were working on, what they were working towards, and made it very difficult for me and my team. And how we were able to, work through that with them and eventually get them to a point where they were able to better speak to what their challenges were, be able to not be projecting as much of the anger, the situation that they were dealing with, and projecting it onto us, and being able to finalize that process. And then my takeaway from that is being able to better identify clients who honestly may not be ready to work with us, and then getting them the support that they do need. So just as an example there. Another question that we get quite a bit is the compensation question. Everybody hates this question. Everybody dreads it. The strategy is actually leading up to that interview, knowing in advance, to the extent possible, doing research on what that company is you're expecting them to pay for that particular opportunity, how they typically pay in general, doing your research to know, do they pay competitively, going to Glassdoor.com, salary.com, talking to your network, and then to the extent possible you can, having a range in place so that when you're asked that question, being able to say, you know, I have done my research. I know the range is between X and Y for this particular role. I'm very comfortable within that. I would like to be able to discuss my candidacy more. And so when the time comes, we can chat in more detail about what will be commensurate with my experience. So do your research in advance on a question like that, so you are prepared to speak as best as possible to a particular range. And then you should be good to go, focusing on how you're an immediate asset for this particular role so that you establish yourself in a good positioning place. So I know we only had a couple minutes. I feel like I took up my 4 minutes there. So
yeah, you did. So just a reminder, if folks have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I'm checking the chat. Let's see what we have so far. How do you prepare for the skills requirements that you may not have as strong of a background in?
Ooh, that's a good question, and I love it.
I knew you'd like that one.
Okay, so absolutely strategies for that. You want to try to show a couple of things you can do. Dotted line experience. So if there's something that is very, very specific and you have a dotted line to it in some way, this is a good example. So say they are looking for someone who has direct people management experience and you have not managed a team. However, from a dotted line perspective, you have managed people connected to a project. So aspects of a project, you manage their work. They were not reporting directly to you, but you manage their work on a particular project. That is dotted line experience. So you want to be able to show that. So again, find the ways that you might have a connection to what they're asking, and show that dotted line experience and success with it. So again, back to the management, you may have managed someone indirectly on a project. Be able to speak to that and speak to like the overall success with that particular project. Another way to do it is if someone's asking for a particular skill set, say it's a particular software that you don't have as much experience with, but you know it's coming, and you know it's a really critical part of a role you're very excited about. We do recommend trying to do something like a quick Coursera 45-minute baseline but not a certification, but a baseline course, just to say you have some experience, reading a quick overview of that particular technology, whatever it might be, so that you can say, I have a baseline understanding of this. And if this was a role that I was planning to accept, then I would be committing to doing X, Y, and Z to ensure an even stronger understanding of that skill, of that software, of that hard, whatever it might be, so that I can come in and be an immediate asset. So there's definite ways to set the expectation that you have a knowledge of it and that you will be increasing that knowledge between now and starting, so that you'll be ready to jump in right away.
I love it.
Yeah. The other thing I would say with that, so for the role that I'm in, I've been there for about 15 months. They need the person in my role to be certified in a specific Myers-Briggs type profile, which is very, very specific. And there's a very small pool of people who have that. I'm all for a company paying for certification. If you can figure out how to have a company pay for grad school certification, get in on that action. So I made sure that during the interview process, I've done similar things. No, I don't have that specific certification, but what would that look like getting it? It's not something that I'm just interested in, like I'm dying to do it. And so the company felt really confident that it was something that I was willing to take on. And they were very happy to pay for me to get that certification. So sometimes I think you can turn a negative into a positive, but like they weren't going to find somebody for that role who already had that certification, and they knew that.
No, that's a beautiful example, and that did work out really, really well.
Yeah. I love in the comments somebody shared that they use the term leading without authority. I really love that. Especially now culturally, I know our organization is shifting to more of a networked, flatter organization, right? Where you're leading without authority really all the time, whether you're a people leader or not. You're leading small agile teams, you're leading various projects. And so anytime that you can do that dotted line, like Emily said, and make it, really connected, those types of attributes that you had to demonstrate as a leader, they carry over.
Absolutely. There's a lot of soft skills and hard skills that go into being involved at any sort of a leadership level on a particular project. And so a lot of people come to me and say, well, I was just doing my job. I just did my job and it turned out fine. And they don't think anything of it. But when we take that step back and we think, what wouldn't have happened without you? And that is actually a critical question to ask yourself. What wouldn't have happened without you? Then you start to see the wheels turning. Oh, well, nothing would have happened without me. Usually the case. But when you really start thinking through and you can break it down, it allows people to better understand the value that they bring to a particular organization and particular projects they're in.
That's great. A couple people had questions about showing this particular capitalized process.
Sure.
So I pulled it back up on screen for you all. And then there was a question on, will there be copies of the pattern of excellence or this particular PowerPoint that we can share out?
I do believe we are recording this. Always happy to discuss it further with people as well. And of course, it will all be in the book. I don't mean to plug my book. But
Nothing wrong with that. But yeah, Emily, great point. This is all being recorded, and within a week or two, there is an L&D Cares channel on YouTube, and all of the sessions will be edited and posted up there accordingly. So if you saw something that you didn't scribble everything down, you can get your hands on any of the slides or anything that way as well.
Great. Emily, another question that I actually have. So I used to get into this pattern of saying we all the time in my interviews, like we did this, we did that. What do you think about I versus we, and does it differ depending on the question or the role that you're going out for?
I think there's a nice way to mix both in.
Okay.
I really do, because you want to show that you are a team player. I mean, that it's a little bit of an overused term, but it's still important. You want to be able to show that team player, but you also want to diversify yourself and distinguish yourself as the candidate, because in a particular role, they're usually not hiring your whole team. They're hiring you. You might be able to bring your team at some levels, but they're hiring you and your leadership and your capabilities. So you can sprinkle both in. One thing you can say is, as a key member of my team, we were able to. And so that way, and there's different ways of saying that, but that positions you as a key member of an entire organization and how you were able to lead that along. So you like my little visual here. But again, as a key member of my team, as an integral part of the organization, I was able to do this with my team, and we were able to move this forward. So again, you're positioning yourself as a key person within your team, and that's leadership.
Yes. And then being clear about the role that you played, right? So if you're going to say we, right? Well, what was your individual role? Because if I say we too much, I get the question back. What did you do? What was your part of the process? Yeah.
So you want to show the you and what you did do, but a lot of times you're not doing it completely solely on your own. Yeah. Most people are not individual contributors in that particular way. That there are those roles that does exist, but there's still some amount of teamwork. There's still some amount of collaboration, and you just want to be able to strategically demonstrate your ability to work with others while also distinguishing your candidacy. And while there is something to be said for being humble and modest and all of those things, we also want to make sure that there is an opportunity for you to speak very accurately about the great work you did as a particular leader.
That's great. We've got a lot of good stuff coming through the chat. Does anyone have any last minute questions before we let Emily go? This has been time very well spent for me. Thank you so much, Emily.
Oh, it has been my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, let's just check in the chat for you guys again. I think we're good. And I know that there were other sessions that started at 1:55. So if people need to hop to get on another track, feel free to do that. Emily, Tina, thank you both so much for spending the afternoon with us, sharing so much great knowledge. Any closing remarks?
This is great. This has been such a wonderful time. I've been so thrilled to be a part of this, the L&D Cares Career Growth Summit. This is awesome stuff. Thank you, guys.
And yes, just to answer a question that I saw in the chat, Emily is accepting new clients for any of you who are wondering. And that was a real question in the chat, not just a shameless plug.
I do see that. Thank you so much. And do follow us as well across all social media. We are on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, all of the above. No, we are not on TikTok. I keep asking my social media team and they're telling me no. So, but good to see you guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.